For centuries, the galaxy had been silent. Humanity had spread far and wide, building colonies, research stations, and trade routes across hundreds of star systems. It was an age of peace. The wars of the past were forgotten, replaced by progress, technology, and exploration. People had begun to believe they were alone, that the stars were empty, waiting for them to fill the void. Then, one quiet night, the silence broke. It started as static, a faint whisper across deep space frequencies, so weak that most sensors ignored it. But on the outer edge of human space, near the Perseus frontier, a listening array picked up something strange. A pattern. 3 sharp pulses, perfectly timed, followed by a pause. Then again. 3 pulses, a pause, and then... Their voice, it wasn't human. The sound was metallic, deep, and unnatural, like a machine trying to imitate speech. The words came slowly, almost grinding through the static. To the species known as humanity. Your expansion violates Dominion law. Withdraw, or face elimination. The transmission cut off. The signal repeated once more, then vanished. At first, the crew of Artemis 9, a small research station orbiting the frozen world of Acheron, thought it was a prank or interference. Commander Riley Chen, the station's commanding officer, ordered her communications officer to isolate the frequency. But as the pattern repeated, something about it made her uneasy. Riley was a woman who had seen her share of strange things. A former fleet officer, she had spent years studying cosmic anomalies and alien ruins left by long-dead species. But this was different. The voice wasn't ancient or decayed. It was alive, active, and it spoke directly to humanity. "Run the spectral analysis again," she said quietly. Lieutenant Marlowe, her comms specialist, frowned as the data scrolled across his display. "The signal's not bouncing off anything, Commander. It's coming straight from deep space. Somewhere beyond the Perseus line. How far? Hard to say. Could be a few light years. Could be hundreds." The commander stared at the main viewport. The frozen planet below reflected the distant light of a dying sun. A faint blue shimmer crossed her vision. The auroras of Acheron moving like ghostly curtains. Everything felt still, too still. "Patch it to Central Command," Riley ordered. "Encrypt it. Priority 1. The message reached Earth 27 hours later. By then, the entire defense network had gone into alert mode. The United Earth Council convened an emergency session. Military analysts, linguists, and scientists all crowded into virtual chambers, trying to decode the meaning behind the voice. Some thought it was a hoax. Others believed it was the discovery of the century, proof that humans were not alone. But when the signal repeated for the 3rd time, this time across every colony within the Perseus region, no one could deny it anymore. The Dominion, whatever it was, knew exactly where humanity lived. Back aboard Artemis 9, tension thickened. The crew had stopped sleeping. Everyone was glued to their stations, monitoring deep space radar and signal traffic. The message kept replaying in Riley's mind. Withdraw, or face elimination. The tone wasn't just a warning. It was a declaration. On the 2nd day, the station's long-range satellites detected movement. At first, it was faint, small distortions in space like ripples spreading across a calm lake. But within hours, those ripples became signatures, dozens, then hundreds, massive energy readings. Lieutenant Marlowe's voice trembled as he called out, "Commander, I've got multiple objects moving through Sector 12. They're big." "How big?" "Capital ship size." "Maybe larger?" Riley leaned over his shoulder. The screen showed strange organic-looking forms moving in perfect formation. No transponders, no human design. Her throat went dry. "That's a fleet." She hit the emergency beacon. The station's AI, Helios, came online with a calm mechanical voice. "Attention, unknown vessels detected entering human space. Alert level Alpha." Riley looked around at her crew, a dozen people suddenly aware that history was unfolding right in front of them. No one spoke. The silence was heavy. The hum of the reactor seemed louder than ever. Marlowe whispered, "Do you think they can hear us?" Riley didn't answer. Instead, she stared at the sensor display as one of the contacts broke formation, a massive object heading straight toward them. Hours passed. Earth responded with a fleet order. All patrols were to regroup and no one was to engage. But Artemis 9 was too far out. The nearest ship was 3 days away. That night, if you could call it night in space, Riley stood alone in the observation deck. The stars looked peaceful, innocent. She tried to imagine what kind of species could travel across the void just to threaten another. Were they conquerors, judges, or something worse? A faint vibration ran through the station's hull. The lights flickered. Riley's heart jumped. What was that? Marlowe's voice came over the intercom, panicked. Commander, we're picking up a gravitational anomaly. Something's forming off our starboard side. Riley ran to the viewport. For a moment there was nothing, just the endless black. Then a shimmer. Space itself seemed to bend, folding like glass under pressure. Out of the distortion, a massive ship emerged, black and silver, shaped like a living creature. Its hull pulsed faintly, as if it were breathing. No lights, no markings, no radio signal. It simply hovered there, silent and terrifying. The crew gasped. One technician dropped her tablet. Riley whispered, "Get me Earth, now." Before the link could establish, the Dominion ship transmitted a short burst of sound. The same 3 pulses, louder this time, shaking the station's comms array. "This is your final warning. Withdraw, or be erased." The words echoed through the control room like thunder. Riley felt her pulse pounding in her ears. She forced herself to speak steadily into the recorder. "This is Commander Riley Chen of Artemis 9. We have visual contact with unidentified ships. They appear hostile. They've issued a direct threat against humanity." She paused, glancing once more at the massive shadow outside. "They're coming," she said quietly. "And they're not here to talk." The transmission was sent. Far away on Earth, the message arrived at command headquarters. It was short, urgent, and final. The first warning of humanity's greatest challenge. The stars were no longer silent. The galaxy had spoken. And for the first time in history, humanity realized it was not alone. And it had just been challenged. The message from Commander Riley Chen hit Earth like a thunderclap. It played across every secure channel in the United Earth Council headquarters, her voice cold and steady, echoing through the chamber. "They're coming, and they're not here to talk." The words repeated again and again, looping on a dozen screens while the council members sat frozen in disbelief. The great hall was buried deep under Geneva's surface, its glass walls glowing with data projections of the outer colonies. Every one of them showed the same thing: massive unknown objects moving through the Perseus frontier, closing in fast. President Amina Voss rubbed her temples, staring at the hologram. "How many confirmed ships?" she asked quietly. A general at the far end of the table replied, 212, Madam President. Possibly more. Their size varies, but some of them are the size of small moons. Murmurs spread through the room. Scientists whispered that such scale was impossible. Others argued the readings were wrong. But deep down, everyone knew they weren't. Humanity was facing something far beyond its understanding. "Play the signal again," the president ordered. The hall went silent. 3 sharp pulses filled the room, click, 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 followed by that cold mechanical voice. "To the species known as humanity, your expansion violates Dominion law. Withdraw, or—" Face elimination. The recording ended. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then came the arguing. "We don't even know if this Dominion is real," said Minister Corran, pounding the table. "It could be a trap. Pirates, a rogue AI, or some unknown colony trying to cause panic." "You didn't hear that voice," replied Admiral Marcus Hale, head of Earth Defense Command. "That wasn't human. That was a machine, something ancient and powerful. And it's coming for us." Hale was a tall, scarred man in his 60s, known for leading the first interstellar defense fleet. He wasn't one to panic easily. But his expression that day told everyone the truth. He was afraid. President Voss leaned back. "If this is real, what are our options?" Hale's answer was immediate. "We mobilize the fleets, fortify the colonies near the Perseus line, and prepare for war." Half the room erupted. "War? Against something we haven't even seen. If they want us to withdraw, maybe we should. Humanity doesn't need another war. You think they'll stop at our borders?" Hale shouted back. "They're not asking. They're declaring ownership of the galaxy. And we're next." In the corner of the room, Dr. Erin Solis, a xenolinguist, spoke softly. "The word Dominion. It implies control, authority. Maybe they see themselves as guardians. If we can open communication, perhaps they'll listen. Listen. Hale glared at him. They've already destroyed 2 outposts. A hush fell over the chamber. The council turned to him in shock. Destroyed? The president asked. Hale nodded grimly. An hour before this meeting, we lost contact with the colonies of Tarsis 9 and New Caldera. Both reported massive energy readings before going dark. Satellite feeds show only debris. A sickening silence filled the room. Every delegate knew what that meant. Billions of lives gone. The Dominion wasn't bluffing. They were cleansing. The president rose slowly from her chair. Then it's not a warning, she said. It's a declaration of extermination. Outside, in orbit above Earth, the great shipyards came alive. The defense fleets, long dormant since the colonial wars, were ordered to full readiness. Pilots were recalled, reserves mobilized, and command posts reopened across the solar system. Humanity was preparing for its first interstellar war. Yet not everyone agreed. While the military planned defenses, scientists and diplomats pleaded for peace. They argued that war with a civilization so advanced would mean extinction. Messages were sent into deep space in dozens of languages, trying to establish dialogue. None were answered. Meanwhile, on the far edge of human territory, Commander Riley Chen and her crew aboard Artemis 9 watched as the Dominion fleet grew closer. Their scanners showed hundreds of ships spreading across space like a dark storm. Each vessel was unique. No identical designs, no visible weapons, almost alive. The Dominion didn't move like any human navy. They moved like predators. Still no communication from Earth? Asked Lieutenant Marlowe. Riley shook her head. They're busy arguing. Arguing? Marlowe looked at her, disbelief on his face. While this thing heads right for us? That's what humans do best, she said bitterly. We argue until it's too late. On Earth, Admiral Hale watched the incoming data in his private command room. The fleet was still days away from the frontier. He opened a private channel to President Voss. Madam President, with respect, if we wait for them to strike first, we'll lose everything. Let me take the fleet to intercept. Voss hesitated. If we attack first, we become the aggressors. What if they can be reasoned with? Hale's voice hardened. You can't reason with something that sends a message like that. We have one chance to show them humanity won't bow down. She didn't answer. The silence between them stretched until Hale finally said, You're making a mistake. He ended the call. Minutes later, he gave an unauthorized order. Task Force Orion, 3 carrier groups and 12 cruisers, was to move toward the Perseus frontier. Officially, it was a defensive maneuver. Unofficially, it was a warning. The Dominion would see that humanity wasn't afraid. As the fleet accelerated into the dark, Hale stood by the viewport, watching the stars blur into streaks of light. He whispered to himself, We've faced extinction before. We survived our own wars. We survived our own monsters. If they want to test us, they'll learn what humanity really is. Back on Earth, the Council was still debating, unaware that their top admiral had just lit the fuse of the most dangerous conflict in human history. And in the cold void beyond the frontier, the Dominion ships continued their silent advance, vast, endless, and unstoppable. The galaxy was about to change forever. Humanity had made its decision. The mistake had been made. The human fleet reached Jupiter's orbit 3 days later. The ships gleamed like silver blades against the dark, hundreds of vessels forming into tight formations around the massive gas giant. Task Force Orion was humanity's pride, the best warships Earth had ever built. Carriers, destroyers, frigates, and a single dreadnought, Valiant, commanded by Admiral Marcus Hale himself. It was supposed to be a show of strength. Instead, it became the site of humanity's first true nightmare. The Dominion arrived without warning. One moment the stars were clear, the next the sky tore open. The void bent like rippling glass as something vast emerged. First 1, then 3. Then dozens of enormous alien ships slid out of the distortion field. They were unlike anything human eyes had ever seen, massive, black, and alive. Their surfaces shimmered like liquid metal, pulsing faintly with blue veins of energy. They didn't send a signal. They didn't speak. They just appeared, moving in complete silence. "Contact! Multiple hostiles inbound," shouted the tactical officer aboard Valiant. "We're detecting energy spikes, unknown type." Hale stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the view screen. His jaw tightened. "So this is them," he muttered. Dominion vessels. They look like nightmares. Orders, sir? His second-in-command asked. Hale hesitated for a single breath, then gave the order. Open channels. Try hailing them. Static filled the comms. No response. The Dominion ships continued to advance. No reply, sir. They're ignoring us. Then prepare for evasive maneuvers, Hale said. All ships, defensive formation. We'll give them one last chance. Across the fleet, tension spread like fire. Thousands of soldiers, pilots, and technicians held their breath, waiting for the unknown to make its move. For a brief moment, the stars were silent again. Then the Dominion struck. Without any visible weapon, beams of pure energy erupted from their hulls, slicing through space like lightning. One human cruiser vanished instantly, vaporized. Then another. Explosions flared across the void. The Dominion fleet moved like a swarm, precise and merciless. "They're tearing through our lines," cried a voice over the comms. "Shields are failing." Hale gritted his teeth. "Return fire! Target the nearest ships! Full barrage!" The human ships fired everything they had. Railguns, plasma torpedoes, nuclear rounds. But the Dominion vessels barely flinched. The projectiles hit their hulls and melted away like raindrops on steel. Their armor wasn't armor at all, it was alive, shifting and absorbing damage. Onboard Valiant, alarms screamed as Dominion blasts ripped through the flanking destroyers. One explosion after another filled the dark sky with light. Hale's voice cut through the chaos. "All ships, maintain formation. Don't break. We can't outrun them." "Admiral, they're surrounding us," someone yelled. "Then we fight until we can't," he roared. Amid the destruction, one small ship flew recklessly toward the enemy lines, a single fighter craft weaving through the chaos. The pilot's call sign flashed on the screen. Ghost 11, Lieutenant Zara Vance. She was one of Earth's youngest pilots, known for her impossible maneuvers. Her ship was half damaged, her shields flickering, but she didn't turn back. "Command, this is Ghost 11, she said, breathing hard. "Permission to engage the big one." "Denied," shouted her commander. "You're outnumbered." "Fall back." "Negative," Zara replied. "If I fall back, we all die anyway." She cut the comms and pushed her engines to the limit. Her fighter streaked toward the nearest Dominion warship, a massive creature of metal and energy, easily a kilometer long. She flew through the storm of plasma fire, dodging beams by inches. Her ship shook violently, alarms blaring. The Dominion ship opened a glowing aperture, its weapon charging. Zara smiled grimly. "Not today." She armed her reactor core and dove straight toward the ship's heart. "For humanity," she whispered, and then her screen went white. The explosion was like a newborn star. The shockwave rippled across space, tearing through debris and striking several Dominion ships nearby. Sensors across the fleet lit up as one of the massive vessels split in half, breaking apart into burning fragments. The cheers echoed through human comms. "She did it." "She took one down!" "Ghost 11 is gone, but she actually did it." Even Admiral Hale couldn't hide the emotion in his voice. "All units regroup. Use the debris as cover." The Dominion fleet paused for the first time. Their formations faltered, their energy signatures fluctuating. They hadn't expected a single pilot to destroy one of their kind. They didn't understand how. That moment of confusion was all humanity needed. The fleet fired everything they had, using the wreckage of the fallen Dominion ship as a shield. Torpedoes and plasma bursts tore through the enemy ranks. For 10 minutes, the impossible happened. Humans held their ground. When the dust cleared, 2 Dominion ships were crippled, 1 destroyed. Humanity had lost 80 vessels, but they had survived. And that makes us dangerous. News of the battle spread across the colonies within hours. Footage of Zara Vance's sacrifice played on every broadcast, her name spoken like a legend. For the first time in human history, the galaxy knew one terrifying truth. Humanity was not afraid to die. And far beyond the Perseus line, deep in the Dominion's dark territories, unseen eyes watched the footage in silence. The great masters of the Dominion spoke one word in their cold alien tongue, a word that meant threat. Humanity had become their next target. The Battle of Jupiter changed everything. For the first time, humanity had faced an alien power, and lived. But the cost was heavy. Hundreds of ships lost, thousands dead, and the truth that every survivor carried burned deep into their minds. The Dominion was unlike anything they had imagined. It wasn't just a civilization. It was an empire built on fear. After the fight, the wreckage of the destroyed Dominion ship was hauled to the secret military lab on Lunar Base. Scientists and engineers worked day and night to study it, guarded by soldiers who had seen what these creatures could do. Commander Riley Chen was brought in to lead the analysis. She hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were fixed on the strange organic remains of the alien vessel floating in containment. The surface pulsed faintly like a dying heart. "It's not metal," said Dr. Solis, the xenolinguist from the council. "It's alive, or at least it was." Riley frowned. "You're saying they grow their ships?" "Maybe not grow, maybe breed," he replied. The words made her stomach twist. The Dominion didn't build technology. They created it. The discovery shocked the scientific community. Inside the remains, they found strange neural fibers, biological circuits that seemed to think, react, and even heal. When connected to human scanners, the ship's systems responded, almost like they were trying to communicate. One of the techs shouted from across the lab, "Commander, you'll want to see this." Riley walked over. The monitor displayed a holographic projection, a vast network of worlds and routes stretching across the galaxy. It was a star map, but one like no human had ever seen. Countless systems were marked with strange sigils. Some glowed bright. Others were dim and grey. "What are those?" Riley asked. Dr. Solis studied the pattern. "Active worlds. Controlled territories. The grey ones, extinct species." He zoomed in. Thousands of stars were grey. Entire civilizations gone. A chill crept through the room. "So these Dominion people didn't just rule the galaxy," Riley whispered. "They erased it." She turned toward the scientists. "Keep searching. There has to be more." Hours later, one of the researchers uncovered a data core deep inside the alien wreck. It wasn't like any device they had seen, shaped like a black crystal humming with faint energy. When activated, it projected alien symbols across the room. Solis translated slowly, reading the fragmented words aloud. This is a record, a message left by a race called the Thalren. It says, "Do not provoke them. They evolve through conflict." The room went silent. Riley felt her chest tighten. "Evolve?" she repeated. "They mean humans." Solis nodded. "I think so. According to this, the Thalren fought a primitive species thousands of years ago, a species that adapted faster than any they'd ever seen. The Thalren called them the Endless Adversary, and the genetic markers in their records match us." Riley stepped back in shock. "You're saying humanity has fought them before?" "Maybe not us," Solis said, "but something, our ancestors, or whatever we came from. The Dominion has known about humanity long before we even reached the stars." The realization hit hard. The Dominion's message, "withdraw or be erased," wasn't random. It was a continuation of an old war. A war humanity didn't even know it had started. Back on Earth, Admiral Hale received the lunar report. He read it in silence, his face pale. "So they've known about us," he said quietly. "And they've been waiting. What do we do with this?" President Voss asked him in a secure transmission. "If we make it public, panic will spread." Hale shook his head. "We can't hide it. The colonies are already hearing rumors. They deserve to know what we're facing." Voss hesitated. "And what are we facing, Admiral?" Hale looked up. "Something that's killed thousands of civilizations. Something that calls itself the law of the galaxy." On Luna, Riley stood at the viewport, staring at Earth shining below. The alien wreckage glowed faintly behind her, whispering in a low hum like a heartbeat. She couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching her. "Do you think they'll come again?" Marlowe asked softly. "They will," Riley said. "And next time they won't underestimate us. Because of Lieutenant Vance?" he asked. Riley nodded. "She showed them what humans do when they're cornered." The next morning, a new transmission arrived from deep space. 3 pulses. The same voice. "Humanity has chosen defiance. You will be purged." The signal was broadcast across every channel in every colony. Panic erupted. Fleets scrambled. The Dominion had spoken again, and this time there was no doubt. They were preparing for a full-scale invasion. The stars burned with incoming signatures. On the edge of human space, sensors picked up dozens of new wormholes opening at once. The Dominion wasn't sending a message anymore. They were sending armies. Hale called an emergency war council. "They're coming faster than we expected," he said. "Our defenses won't hold at the frontier." Riley's image appeared on the screen from Lunar Base. "Then we hit them before they hit us," she said. "We know their ships are alive. Maybe we can kill them differently, starve them, blind them, disrupt whatever controls them." Hale studied her face. "You think we can fight them with biology?" "No," she said. "I think we can outthink them. That's what they fear." Hale gave a slow, grim smile. "Then let's give the galaxy a reason to remember us." Outside, fleets began to mobilize again. Across every world, soldiers prepared, engineers loaded weapons, and civilians watched the skies. The Dominion had ruled for 1,000 years, but now they had met something new, something unpredictable, something that learned through chaos and survived through will. Humanity. And in the endless dark between the stars, the Dominion fleets moved like a storm, unaware that their next war would not be like any they had fought before. This time their prey would fight back. The Dominion invasion came like a tidal wave. Within weeks, entire colonies went dark. Planets that once shone with human life became burning dots on the galactic map. The skies over the Perseus frontier were filled with the wrecks of ships, floating tombs marking humanity's desperate defense. But amid the chaos, something began to change. The Dominion expected humanity to break. Instead, it adapted. On Lunar Base, Commander Riley Chen and her team worked around the clock to study the alien wrecks. They discovered something strange. Dominion technology wasn't mechanical. It was biological, connected through living neural fibers. The ships didn't just receive commands. They felt them, like extensions of one single mind. "They're a hive," Dr. Solis explained. "Every ship, every soldier, all part of one consciousness. It's perfect, but it's predictable." Riley stared at the glowing patterns on the screen. "And if it's predictable," she said slowly, "we can outthink it." Using fragments of Dominion code, her team developed a way to jam their signals, short, chaotic bursts of random human neural patterns. The Dominion's shared consciousness couldn't understand them. It was like throwing madness into a perfect machine. "We call it Ghost Protocol," Riley said. "Let's see how they handle human chaos." Meanwhile, Admiral Hale led the remaining fleets from the command ship, Valiant II, rebuilt in orbit over Mars. The losses had been terrible, but the surviving crews were hardened. They no longer feared the Dominion, they hated them. Hale gathered his officers in the war room. "They think we're weak," he said. "They think fear will make us surrender. But fear is what makes us dangerous. We've learned their patterns. Now it's time to hit back." Across human space, smaller strike groups began ambushing Dominion fleets using new tactics. Instead of massive formations, humans used guerrilla warfare, appearing, striking, vanishing into asteroid fields or gas clouds. Dominion sensors, used to order and predictability, couldn't track them. A single human ship could now cripple a vessel 10 times its size. In one battle near Vega Belt, a squadron of stealth corvettes lured a Dominion cruiser into a dense magnetic storm, then detonated mines inside the anomaly. The alien ship's organic hull ruptured, screaming as it disintegrated. The recordings spread fast. The myth of Dominion invincibility began to crumble. Riley's team improved the Ghost Protocol further, adapting it for use in fighters. Pilots called it the noise, a constant stream of erratic data that confused enemy targeting systems. Dominion gunners would miss, unable to lock onto human ships. One pilot joked, "We're driving them crazy, literally." By the 3rd month of the war, the impossible happened. The human fleet began winning. Small victories at first. One outpost saved here, one fleet destroyed there. But enough to give hope. On every broadcast, the same message played: humanity stands. The Dominion's high command grew frustrated. They couldn't understand how this primitive species had learned so fast. Their simulations showed human defeat within weeks, yet the opposite was happening. Their commanders reported that human soldiers were unpredictable. Some fought with fury, others with trickery, some even pretending to retreat before counterattacking. Dominion warlords began to fear something they'd never felt before: confusion. On the Dominion flagship, an alien overseer named Cathar recorded a report in its ancient tongue. "Humanity defies reason," it said. "They adapt mid-battle. They use fear as fuel. They are not one mind. They are millions of minds, each acting with chaos. This is evolution." Back on Earth, President Voss gave a speech to the surviving colonies. "They see us as a virus," she said. "Then let us be the virus that ends their empire. Let them learn that freedom cannot be erased." Her words spread across the stars. For the first time, humans weren't fighting to survive. They were fighting to win. On Lunar Base, Riley's team intercepted a strange signal, a distortion coming from deep within Dominion territory. It wasn't a threat. It was a distress call. The Dominion's network was breaking down under the constant ghost interference. Their own ships were turning on each other, confused by human code flooding their systems. "We're inside their hive," Solis said, amazed. "We've infected their mind." Riley smiled for the first time in weeks. "Then it's working." Admiral Hale ordered the fleets to push forward. "This is it," he told his crew. "We take the fight to them. No more hiding, no more running. We end this on our terms." The largest human offensive began, Operation Firebreak. Hundreds of ships jumped into Dominion space, striking shipyards, communications hubs, and command centers. Everywhere they went, they left confusion and fire behind. The Dominion tried to respond, but their unity was gone. Their ships fired at phantom targets, their formations collapsing. On the fourth day of the assault, Hale received a message from Riley. "We've located the Nexus, the core of their hive. If we destroy it, we end the Dominion's control forever." Hale didn't hesitate. "Then we hit it with everything we've got." As the fleets gathered near the Nexus, a massive construct orbiting a dying star, the Dominion unleashed their last defense. Thousands of ships emerged from hyperspace, blocking every escape route. The sky filled with blinding light and shadows. Hale's voice echoed across the fleet. "They think we'll retreat. They still don't understand who we are. Humans don't run. We fight." The final battle had begun. Amid the storm of fire and chaos, human ships darted like ghosts, moving faster, thinking faster. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were winning. The Dominion, for the first time in its ancient history, faced something it could not compute. The unpredictable, the emotional, the unstoppable force called humanity. And in that chaos, the galaxy shifted. The deadliest species was no longer the Dominion. It was the one they had tried to erase. The Dominion was collapsing, but it refused to die quietly. As humanity's fleet struck deeper into alien territory, a massive counterattack began to form. Sensors across human space detected it first, an armada so vast it blocked out the stars. Over 1,000 Dominion ships, all converging toward one place. Vega Prime, humanity's last major stronghold before Earth. If Vega Prime fell, the path to the homeworld would be open. Every surviving human ship was ordered there. The system became a fortress, orbital platforms, minefields, and defensive satellites surrounding the planet like a steel cage. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of his flagship, Valiant 2, watching the battle map fill with red. "This is it," he said quietly. The final storm. Across the fleet, thousands of soldiers prepared for what they believed would be their last fight. Some recorded messages for their families. Others prayed to whatever gods still listened. Commander Riley Chen arrived aboard Valiant 2 with her team, bringing the final version of the Ghost Protocol. "It's risky," she told Hale, "but it might give us a chance." Hale looked at her, tired but resolute. "At this point, Commander, I'll take anything." "We've modified the signal to overload their neural network," she explained. "But it'll only work if we transmit it directly into their nexus. We need to deliver it by hand." Hale nodded slowly. "Then that's what we'll do." The Dominion arrived like a living storm. The stars vanished behind their massive ships. Space shimmered with energy fields as the armada opened fire. The first wave hit the outer defenses, hundreds of explosions lighting up the void. Human ships fired back, plasma beams tearing through the darkness. The battle had begun. The comms were chaos. "Sector 4 shields failing. We've lost the Dauntless." "Repeat, the Dauntless is gone." "Enemy boarding parties on the lower decks." Hale barked orders, his voice steady despite the destruction around him.